Hello, my loves. Tony here from TL Yarn Crafts, and welcome back. And if you're new here, just welcome. Come on in, cozy up. It's been a minute since we had a nice little kiki. Now, I'm going to assume this is a safe space to say January has been doing the most. There are still fires out west. There is snow in the south. Here in the Midwest, honestly, the weather has been pretty normal for this time of year, but it has gotten so cold that I did have to dig out my heated blanket from storage because I refuse to raise the thermostat one more degree.
Did you touch the thermostat? Did you turn it up? Well, of course not. Did somebody fiddle with the thermostat? Yes, it's 85 degrees. 85?
And I'm pretty sure you can hear it from my voice, but the winter ick has descended on the Lipsy household. I honestly haven't been feeling 100% since Christmas, and I had a really bad cough before I went to Vogue, but as soon as I came back, my doctor confirmed that it was indeed a sinus infection. It's starting to become a trend. When I travel, I end up getting sick, so I need to wear my mask on the plane. This is something I've told myself a million times, but I am just so dang on hard-headed. Anywho, cue the coughing and the sneezing and the fatigue. This thing had me in bed for an entire week. And bless his little heart, Mr. Yarn Crafts was a really good attendant for a couple of days, and I told him, baby, I'm sick. You gotta stop kissing me in the mouth. But he couldn't resist, and now we both taking Z-Packs. And with that, let's start the show by giving some love to our cup of caffeine sponsor. I've got my nice little elixir in here, which is keeping the cough at bay. And if you're curious what's in my cup, I'll list it down in the description. And today's cup of caffeine sponsor is Summer. And when donating, Summer said, Tony, I love your tutorials. I recently became introduced and obsessed with crochet and holistic treatment for chronic illness therapy. Your vibes are just right for me. A perfect balance. Thank you. You inspire and give me life. And you know what, Summer? You are giving me life right now because your girl's been feeling about 60% for a couple of weeks. Now, if you like my videos and want to support my channel, buy me a coffee. Who knows, I might shout you out in the next one. Now let's talk Yarny bingo. So you might remember last year there was like this phrase floating around. Something crazy would happen and people would be like, that wasn't on my bingo card. Well, I really like that idea of having this running list of things that you can kind of tick off throughout the year. And since I'm not really a resolutions person, I'm like, okay, how can I turn this into something I can use for my own crafty goals? And thus my Yarny bingo card was born. Let me make some space for her. Okay, so this is how it works, right? I always have all these ideas of what I'm going to do in a particular calendar year when it comes to yarn or crafting. But I've never had a system not only to make them visible to me throughout the year, but also to be able to check them off in a way that was fun and engaging. So I went over to good old Canva and I found a template for a bingo card, and I started filling it in with a few different crafty milestones I've been interested in reaching for quite a while. For example, right, I'm warming up to the color purple. So I have a tile on my bingo card that says love on the color purple. And that just means I want to make a project that is primarily purple. And once I do that, I'll be able to put one of those cute little stars behind it. And that means I completed that tile on my bingo card. Now, a lot of my 2025 goals center around using up as much of my stash as possible. And that's why I have an entire row of tiles that are called Stash Buster Bonus. So once I complete something on my bingo card, if I also use stash to do that thing, I can then mark off one of my bonus tiles. It's really all about the gamification of my New Year's resolutions when it comes to my crafts, and it really makes it much more likely that I'll do even half of the things on this bingo card. How far will this take me? Hopefully all the way to the end of the year. I am starting off pretty strong, and I'll tell you more about those projects pretty soon. If you'd like to take a closer look at my bingo card or even create your own, I've got a link to the template down in the description so you can customize this to your heart's desire. There are several bingo cards floating around. Once I introduced the idea over on Instagram, people went nuts for it. So I'm really curious what yours might look like and what kind of things might go onto your bingo card to actually complete in 2025. Now, with that in mind, let's talk about a few projects that I have recently finished, starting with dun, 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 dun. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to show you this. Y'all, I have officially close to officially, as close as it's gonna get for this video, finished my 2024 temperature blanket. Oh my gosh, if you have been following my stories on Instagram, you know how this border, oh, she humbled me. There is always that point in a temperature blanket where you're like, I really don't know if I'm gonna finish this. I know for some of you, that's right around February, March, but for me, it's always the border. Crochet blankets are big enough, and then when you talk about putting a 14 round border on top of that with teeny tiny little linen stitch, Honey, I am a glutton for punishment, but look how pretty it is. It was super duper important to me to finish this before I made this video, so I did spend all last evening putting the final few rounds of border onto my blanket. And I am thanking the Tony who had the foresight to weave in her ends as she went, because the Tony of right now, oh, she wouldn't have did it. She would have tied them things off and cut them. The real trouble is that each round was taking me about 30 minutes. Now, granted, that was with like social media breaks, or I had to fill up my water bottle or let the dog out or whatever it happened to be, because getting through one entire round without getting up on this was like low-key torture. I'm gonna be honest. Now, the thing is, I used 12 different colors in my temperature blanket for 2024, and I wanted to showcase that in the border. So it's just round after round after round of linen stitch, which granted, linen stitch is one of my absolute favorite stitches, but this entire blanket is linen stitch, and honey, your girl can get sick of it too. But she persisted, thanks to my lovely friends on Instagram who were in my DMs after I posted those stories, and they were like, Tony, you got this, keep going. And I was like, if it wasn't for y'all, this thing would be in a corner somewhere. I was so sick of it. I am not even joking. And as much as I might complain about them, every single year I take on a project like this, and a temperature blanket feels like my own personal mountain to climb. I'm climbing this mountain all year long. I reached the summit at some point in mid-January, only to find that the mountain keeps going. And it's a mountain I've created in my mind. It is my own personal affliction, but I cannot stop, because once these blankets are done, there is a sense of relief and accomplishment that I cannot put into words. Like, one of the things that I wanted to do before this video is try to calculate how many stitches were in this. And I was like, even wrapping my head around how to do that math, I was like, I literally can't devote one more brain cell to this project right now. So if somebody's really good with math and tables and Excel and all that good stuff, if you want to tell me how many stitches are in this blanket, I would really, really love to know. Now, if you're not already familiar with my temperature blanket journey, this is something I do every single year. And for 2024, I used my linen stitch squares temperature blanket. So for each month, I make one of these squares, and I have all the details on exactly how to do it and why every square is 33 rounds. I promise you it works out. You can find the details over on my blog, and I'll have that and everything else that I mentioned linked down in the description. The yarn I used for my 2024 blanket was the original Happy Place Solids. Now, that is a yarn that I developed with Hobie just a couple of years ago, and I was using my stash of Happy Place to create a temperature blanket. I knew that the original Happy Place colors were not going to be around forever, and I wanted a project that showcased as many of them as possible, so a temperature blanket was a really good choice. And now I have this heirloom piece to really show me how amazing this palette works together. It kind of has this like zany 90s, early 2000s like Nickelodeon vibe to it, but some areas like this are like really frosty and beautiful, while other squares, like my birthday square right here, this is June and she's like on fire, and I just love it. I'm obsessed with this blanket, and there were certainly moments where I was like, ooh, are we sure about this? And I did have to switch a couple things out early in the year to really solidify and perfect the palette. But once I did, I'm just so happy with it, and I wouldn't change a thing about it. And one special little detail that makes this blanket even more perfect are the custom tags that I was able to use from Angie and Britt. Angie and Britt is this wonderful woman-owned brand. They make custom tags, wooden pieces just like this. And I reached out to them and I was like, hey, do you want to do kind of like a casual collab around temperature blankets? And they're like, oh my gosh, yes, let's do it. So they created this custom product where you can add your logo to these lovely temperature gauges just like this. So I put my new TL Yarn Crafts logo on here, and it's got the range for all of the temperatures that I used in my blanket. Isn't that so cute? So now I have another little keepsake where even if I'm not using my actual blanket, I can have this tag around to remind me of the lovely experience that I had making this thing. Now, in addition to the gauge tag, they also made these lovely monthly tags, and there's a couple different ways you can customize these with the month and the year, so then you can tag the different parts of your blanket to remember when one month started and another one ended. Those tags are still available, and guess where you can find that link? I am making a 2025 blanket with a little bit of a twist, but you're gonna have to wait till a little bit later in the episode to find out more about that. The next project I have to share is actually the first finished make of 2025, and it was this absolutely adorable bear hooded blanket that I made for my friend who was having her first baby. I don't know what exactly it is, but first time motherhood always inspires my creativity. I love making baby things to gift. Half of the fun is really sussing out the vibe, right? Are the parents a little bit more traditional? Would they like something a little bit more fun? Are they a little bit more out there? Are they a little bit more of a minimalist? Well, these sets of parents are like somewhere between like super vibey and super chic. And I was like, okay, so I need something cozy, but also like crazy low key. This baby is going to be very cool. So in my mind, I wanted to make something that felt like a teddy bear, but also like a blanket. So I found this really nice yarn on Hobie's website. It's called Go Handmade Teddy. And it's this nice 100% polyester and it feels just like a teddy bear. So I got a whole bunch of that, 10 skeins actually, and I used just about all 10 for this blanket. They're 50-gram balls, so it's not too bad. I started off by making a square to make the actual blanket, and then I made a little square in the middle of that square for the hood, and then I made 2 half circles for the ears. I sewed up the smaller square into the hood, plopped the ears on, folded it up with another little onesie and a toy, and I sent it off to the new parents. I hope they get a whole lot of use out of it, and I hope their baby absolutely loves it. Now the yarn is from Hobie, and I want to thank them so much for sharing that with me, and I'm really excited to try out some more Teddy and probably make that blanket over and over again. It was very, very fun and very, very quick. No, there is not a pattern, but you can kind of take a look at the picture and suss out what I did. The last project I want to share, I actually finished some time ago, but I just released the pattern, so I'm showing it to you now. This is the Rainbow Ridge scarf. This is an extra long color block scarf that I made with a bunch of my Apricity scraps. Now you might remember Hobie and I released another yarn together last year called Apricity. It's like a bulky, super bulky weight, mostly alpaca blown yarn, very light, very lofty, very gorgeous. Look at these pigments, oh my gosh. Well, after designing 8 free patterns to go with the release of that yarn, I had a basket full of absolutely gorgeous scraps. I wanted a project that uses every single color, and I had scraps of every single color, so I was like, why not throw it into a scarf? When it came to the stitch though, I was like, I need something new, I need something different that I ain't never seen before. And I learned the Tunisian rib stitch when I was making up the Tunisian snowy sampler. So we're gonna parlay that into this project right here because it works up really, really nicely at such a large gauge. So I started working that rib stitch in sugar and worked it all the way through every single color all the way till midnight. It makes this super long, really dramatic scarf that matches every single coat I own. So you know this thing has been working overtime this season. And as you can see, it is holding up incredibly well, even after being used every single time I go outside. This project really proves that a scrap project doesn't have to look scrappy. So if you're looking for a way to use up some bulky weight scraps, I would highly recommend the Rainbow Ridge scarf. So you can find this free pattern over on my blog, but if you want to take it a step further, you can find a full project tutorial over in the Yarn Hive community. More on that later. So those are all of the projects that I finished so far in January, and I was able to check off 2 boxes on my Yarny bingo card, which I am very proud of. No Stash Buster bonus just yet because I did finish this technically before January, but we still got time. Now we're gonna move on to whips, and I will admit I have a pretty huge whip pile right now, and I know some of y'all can relate, so please don't judge. But we're gonna start things off with my 2025 annual blanket, and that is actually a mood blanket. Now I decided to switch things up this year because I've been doing a temperature-based blanket since I started making these back in 2019. And that's all well and good, but I started hearing all these rumblings of like, girl, I do not even care about temperature. And I was like, you know what, I get that. And temperature's cool and all, but she and I have been hanging out for a long time. Might be time to switch it up. So I started looking at other metrics to measure, and mood or vibe or emotions started popping up. And I was like, actually, that might be a really cool concept to check out because it really forces you to be more introspective when it comes to developing this blanket. It kind of adds an extra layer on top of the experience that I thought might be fun to check out. So here's how it works. I kind of created these 12 mood groups. Exhibit A. I set an alarm on my phone and I sit down at the same time every single night and write a short journal entry about the day. And then at the end of the journal entry, I look at that set of 12 moods and then I decide what the overall vibe was for the day. Now, each of those 12 moods is assigned a different color, and then I can put that color into my blanket. So here is my palette. I am using We Crochet's Stroll Tweed. Big thanks to We Crochet for sponsoring my mood blanket. Thank y'all. Y'all so sweet. And I kind of went for like this classic vintage boho-y thing. Listen, y'all know my vibe, and these are definitely my colors. And I have a nice balance of pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral moods for my blanket. But when it came to the palette, I wanted to make sure that regardless of how I was feeling that day, I was always excited about using the color that was associated with that mood. So all of the colors have like a light to a mid value, nothing too dark. That's just not really my vibe. There's pink, there's purple, there's blue, there's green, brown, couple shades of white, a little bit of everything in there. I also have a little bit of mohair, which I hold with the first day of the month to delineate the first day of the month. Now, as far as the pattern, I did come up with something new. It's called the 4-square granny pattern. So you create 4 squares of granny striped stitch, and then we're going to seam them together. So this is my work so far. As you can see, even though we're pretty deep into January, I haven't made too far. I'm really obsessed with it so far. It kind of looks like a little field of like pastel flowers. And so far in this project, I haven't hit too many unpleasant moods. Actually, my first unpleasant day was January 20th. But beyond that, it's been pretty balanced. Things are going strong in January. I'm really focusing on keeping up with the journaling. I know if I fall too far behind on that, that's what's going to feel like something I can't overcome. So setting that alarm for the evening and also having a designated place to do my journaling has done wonders in making sure that I keep up with this project. So now, since all of my journal entries are up to date, I can't just sit there and like crank out as many rows as possible. And I think that's going to keep this project really fun for me. So I'm looking forward to working on this. I have all the details about exactly how I'm working this up over on my blog, and you can also get a PDF copy of the pattern for just $2 in my shop. So if you're interested in doing this along with me, you can find the details over on tlycblog.com. On to the next whip, which is in this beautiful bag from Mood. I always thought they were called Mud, M-U-U-D. No, honey, it's called Mood. You learn something new every day. But isn't this bag gorgeous? Oh my gosh. Okay. I am making another maple sweater. Surprise, surprise. I'm making another one. I think this is going to be my 4th. Wait, the original one, the taupe one y'all saw me make, the one with the purple that my friend picked out the colors. I think there's one other one, right? I think that maybe this is the 4th one. So I picked some new and different colors because this was actually supposed to be my Christmas sweater, but she ain't done. So clearly I didn't wear this for Christmas. And I got really lazy over here on the sleeve and I used the wrong hook size because I couldn't find the original hook I was working it with. So I'm gonna have to rip this sleeve out and redo it. I'm really loving these colors together. I went back and forth putting them together. I think the final palette is absolutely perfect. All it needs now are sleeves and then I can finally wear it. And this is also a great opportunity for me to keep track of how much of each skein I'm using with all of the colors so I can go back and amend the original pattern. Because you might remember that the original pattern does not acknowledge the color changes, which I'm like, yeah, I could get away with that. And I appreciate y'all for being really, really kind about me not including that. But in all honesty, me and deadlines, sometimes we don't see eye to eye and I gotta do what I got to do. But I always intended to go back and update the pattern to acknowledge the color changes. And as soon as this is done, I plan to amend that pattern. And I promise I will tell you exactly how I change color in this project. But for now, it's still a whip and I'm hoping to wrap this up very, very soon. In the meantime, you can find a free pattern for the maple sweater and all the other patterns that I designed for the Apricity release over on Hobie's website. Okay, one more whip for now. And this is actually the DIY project bag that I put onto my Yarny bingo card. So let me tell you a little bit about how this came to be, right? For 2024, I got the Hue Logo Advent. Absolutely beautiful, the botanical fade. Oh my gosh, I am obsessed. So I used all the mini skeins to make a DK weight version of my Bahama wrap. It came out absolutely stunning. I'm obsessed with it. Well, that Advent also came with a full skein and my wrap was big enough. So I was like, what am I going to do with this one skein? So I was like, you know what? I want to make myself a project bag. So I used that skein for the bottom part of this cute little project bag. Once I got it to the size I wanted it to be, it wasn't tall enough. So I found this pretty skein inside my stash and I put that on there. And then once I added all of that, I realized, oh, I might want to put a handle and some straps on it. So I found another skein in my stash and I am making a handle. And I'm gonna throw this out there because I don't think we talk about this enough. That thermal stitch, absolutely perfect for bag handles. It's got just enough give, but it's not too stretchy. And in this merino wool, which is already stretchy, it's got a nice bit of give. But I bet in something like cotton that is not so stretchy, absolutely perfect for bag handles, belts, all that kind of fun stuff. So this is a full-on stash busting project, which once it's done, 2 squares on the bingo card. Now, as far as the construction, here's what I did. So the bottom, because I couldn't get enough of these, is a linen stitch square. And then I continue working linen stitch in the round all the way up. So there's an equal number of rounds here as there are here. And then I did a round of double crochet mesh because that's where the drawstrings are going to go. And then I just worked in linen stitch for the rest of the way. Now, as far as the drawstrings, I had a little bit left over of the gold. So I made 2 chain lengths. And then once I'm all done, I'm going to weave these through. Now, you might be wondering, Tony, that is going to be one floppy project bag. And I know, I thought about that as well. To counteract the floppiness at the bottom of my bag, I went and got some number 7 mesh from Joann. And I just cut it into a shape that would fit in the bottom of my bag. And then you can see I rounded out the corners because I didn't want any pieces to stick out. So the plan is, fingers crossed this actually works, I sit this in the bottom of the bag, and then I'm going to take some lengths of yarn and just do like some little cross stitch on the bottom to adhere this to the bottom of the bag. So that should give me some flexible stability on the bottom of the bag, but I won't know for sure until it's all done. I just need to finish the handle, put in the drawstrings, sew this into the bottom, and then I'm going to check and see if my little experiment actually worked. Pray for me, y'all, because I am literally just winging this. Now that really is just the tip of my whip iceberg, but listen, we ain't gonna be here all day. Now, I will say if I'm gonna make it through any of these projects, I'm gonna need some decent books and TV shows to get me through. And thankfully, we are in a boom moment right now. There's a lot of really good stuff on. Now, here's what I'm taking in. So one show I am totally obsessed with right now is called Landman, and it's on Paramount Plus. So this one is a drama, and it's centered around an oil boom in West Texas. Everybody is either trying to get rich or trying to get richer. It's a little bit dirty, it's a little bit gritty, and half the time I'm like behind my hands like this. Now, at the heart of the story is Billy Bob Thornton, aka Tommy Norris, and I'm not gonna lie, I don't really like Billy Bob Thornton, but he's a hell of an actor. Now, in the story, Billy Bob is a fixer for this billionaire who owns a whole bunch of these oil rigs. And throughout the series, we're following Tommy as he puts out all these fires, literally and metaphorically, girl. There's a huge cast, multiple storylines, his ex-wife's over here, and his daughter's over here, and his son's over here, and he messing with the widow who got killed on the team, and it's a whole lot to follow. But the way that the story is laid out, it's pretty easy to follow. It's really gritty. It's really nerve-wracking. And if I'm being honest, it's kind of impossible to crochet to. You kind of have to pay attention, but I squeeze a couple stitches in there. Now, when I need a little pick-me-up, that's when I move on over to RuPaul's Drag Race because season 17 just started. Now, if you don't know already, which I can't imagine you wouldn't, but RuPaul's Drag Race is RuPaul's competition series to find the next drag superstar. So they find drag queens from all around the country from every different experience level. People been doing this for years and years, and people done just started. There's people who are doing shows, and there's people who are just doing this on TikTok, and they're going against each other in some of the most hilarious, ridiculous, and gag-worthy competitions. And ultimately, one person is going to end up on top. Now, season 17 has just gotten underway, and the messy little cat is already out the bag, honey. There are alliances, there are rivalries, and for some reason, there is Michelle Visage in a dunk tank. The first episode was based off a Squid Game, and there were pies thrown in the queen's faces. It was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen, and I almost didn't make it through it. It was a little bit too absurd for me, but once we got to the actual competition, we got to meet the queens. I was like, okay, this is the Ru I know and love. Now, I usually like to pick favorites at the beginning, but this one was a little bit tricky for me. I don't know any of these queens from who I follow on socials or anything like that, so I kind of had to pick my favorites from this new batch of folks. Ariete has been really fun for the looks and for a little bit of the slyness, a little bit of the cattiness. And I'm also becoming quite partial to Anya Nerve. I can't say that I love her drag, but I do love the way she saunters down a runway. She's killing it. This is definitely a situation where the queen is selling the drag. Now, on to books. I am currently only reading one book right now, and it is called Our Share of Night. Now, I am only about an hour and a half into this 27-hour audiobook, and I am gonna have a little bit of trouble trying to succinctly share what this book is about. So far, here's what I've gathered. The mom, she dies. The husband and the son, they're trying to outrun the mom's family. The mom's family is called the Order. They are a cult, and they are trying to be immortal, and they need to get the son into the cult to further their chances of becoming immortal. Now, if you've read the book and that's wrong, I'm sorry. It's all I got so far. Now, this isn't normally the type of book that I typically go for. My usual audiobook is somewhere between about 8 to 10 hours. This was a book that I actually put on hold right around Halloween when I was feeling super ambitious. But this came up on my Libby holds, and I have it for a couple of weeks, and I don't know if I'm going to finish it in time, but I'm going to try my absolute best. I'm listening to it on 1.75 speed and just crossing my fingers. Now, at some point, I'm going to need to squeeze in reading Woman in Cabin 10 for the Yarn Hive book club. And I know I keep mentioning the Yarn Hive, but don't worry, we're going to get there. Now, Woman in Cabin 10 is a tidy little thriller about this reporter who sees a murder and don't nobody know what she's talking about, but she starts investigating it and it could lead to her death, like they always do. It's the kind of thriller that I am drawn to, so I love that this is part of book club so I can go talk about something that I know about, and it's something that I can probably get through in a weekend, so right up my alley. Alrighty, darlings, we are going to round out this episode with just a few announcements, first of which being, oh, I'm so excited to tell you. I made a bag. Okay, let me be for real. Let me be legit. Let me say this how I'm supposed to say it. I didn't make the bag, but I did collaborate with Della Q to make the Vivid Rose version of the Maker Mesh Tote. I'm going to take you all the way back to the beginning of how this gorgeous bag came to be. So I've worked with Della Q before. I've promoted some of their products. I've seen them at H&H. We homies, we go way back. So when they emailed me and they were like, hey, Tony, do you want to collaborate on a Della Q tote? Honey, I have never, ever replied to an email faster. I was like, honey, yes, where do I sign up? And they were like, okay, pick a bag that you want and then we'll talk colors. I was like, bet, no problem. Reply to that one quick too. And I was like, the Maker Mesh Tote. I'm already super in love with this bag. I have the one in mustard. I use it constantly and it's held up really, really nicely, especially considering that the body of it is mesh. I was like, oh no, this thing is going to rip. It's going to tear. It's going to get caught on things. Literally has never happened. The bag looks the same as the day that I bought it. So I was like, fine, Maker Mesh Tote, let's keep it pushing. So they sent me a color card and they were like, well, what color do you want? And I was like, listen, I already know that I want pink. It's my absolute favorite color. But what pink though? Now, considering when this bag was going to come out, I was like, I know in the dead of winter, I'm going to want something that's vibrant, that's punchy, that's inspired. So I went with this really bright, gorgeous fuchsia pink. And look at that baby girl. Oh my gosh, I am so obsessed with this bag, and this thing lived on my hip when I went to Vogue Knit Live. This thing was not only on American Airlines twice, but also went all through the city and not a scratch on her. Honey, she is flawless. Now, as you can see, this is a big old bag, and as somebody who is partial to making sweaters and blankets, you know I had to go with something huge. The inside can fit over 10 100-gram skeins. You've got a zipper pocket on the outside. You've got a crossbody strap as well as handbag straps. It closes with those really delicious Oh Snap snaps. And speaking of Oh Snap, it comes with its own Oh Snap bag. You know what it also comes with? One of those little hangy things with the scissors in it. It's real cute. Now, these are out now, and if you're interested, you can absolutely go get the Vivid Rose Maker Mesh Tote. Now, this is super duper exclusive, and there were only 1,000 bags made. And once those are gone, far as I know, honey, ain't gonna be no more. So if you're interested in one, you can find these on Della Q's website as well as Jimmy Bean's Wool website. And just in case somebody starts hawking them out there in the world, you'll know you have an authentic one if it has the Teal Yarn Crafts logo in the back. So I'm gonna have all the links to go get your Vivid Rose tote down below, but I want to give a huge thank you to Della Q for even giving me this opportunity. I'm so excited to have this bag, and if I didn't create it, honey, I would have purchased it myself. And if you're wondering what's inside my bag, that actually takes me to our next announcement, which is all about Make It Cal 2025. So I would like to cordially invite you to participate in Make It Cal 2025. This is actually the 7th annual Make It Cal, and this is something that I run every single January. So Make It Cal 2025 starts on Monday, January 27th and runs for 5 total weeks. And it's a chance for you to finally make something just for yourself. Listen, we spend the entire holiday season making for other people, making for charity, donating. Why not carve out a little bit of time to do something just for yourself? So here's how it works. You pick any TL Yarn Crafts pattern. Tiny, huge, something that you already have a whip for, or something brand new that you want to make. Work from stash, get a kit, treat yourself to some new yarn. Honey, I don't care what you make and what you make it with, as long as it's a TL Yarn Crafts pattern. And then over the course of those 5 weeks, you can share that project on Instagram or inside the Yarn Hive community for a chance to win amazing prizes. And the prizes this year are really good. I know I say that every single year, but this year they're like really good. So the week 1 prize is sponsored by our friend Ashley over at Montana Crochet. She and I collaborated way back in the day to make the gorgeous Rancher shawl, and she has agreed to make 2 more kits, one for Instagram and one for the Yarn Hive, to win for the week 1 prize. Now, in addition to the yarn kit, you're also going to get a PDF copy of the pattern. So if you share your project in that first week, make sure you're following me and Montana Crochet and tag TL Yarn Crafts in the actual photo on Instagram. Now, if you're sharing in the Yarn Hive, we have a special channel just for the Make It Cow, and share your project in that first week and you'll be entered for the prize. For week 2, we have a Clover prize pack, which will include a full set of Clover Amour crochet hooks. I have said this till I was blue in the face. Clover Amour crochet hooks are some of the absolute best value hooks on the market. I know they can be a little bit pricey, so that's why I'm giving you a chance to win some on Instagram and inside the Yarn Hive as part of our week 2 prize. For week 3, we have a new partner that we're working with. This is Kato. Now, these are the people that make the electric yarn ball winder that I did the review of, and I'm telling you, the more I use that thing, the more I love it. It is just so darn convenient. So if you want a chance to make winding yarn a little bit easier, make sure you share your project during week 3. Now, week 4 is sponsored by my good friends at Della Q, and even though the bags just came out, they agreed to give away 2 Vivid Rose Maker Mesh totes for week 4 of Make It Cow. I just couldn't believe it. That was like a Hail Mary ask, and they were like, yes, honey, make it happen. So if you're feeling lucky and want to try your hand at winning a Vivid Rose Maker Mesh tote, share your project in week 4. In week 5, I always reserve for myself. That's a chance for me to share my book, The Tunisian Crochet Handbook, and I also give away lots of other prizes to go with it, including yarn to make your very first Tunisian crochet project. So you can share your project in week 5 for a chance to win that. Pretty good prizes, right? I think so. Now, there are full details on exactly how to win prizes, as well as a whole lot of project inspo over in the blog post, which is linked down below. But as far as what I'm making for Make It Cow, because I participate as well, I have my project here inside my Vivid Rose Make a Mesh tote, and I'm making a Lamia wrap. Listen, I love this piece, and I know this is a classic when it comes to TL Yarn Crafts patterns. I am working with We Crochet's City Tweed DK in the color Toad. It's this really gorgeous forest green. And I thought at first that the tweed was going to really interrupt the texture pattern, but in the right lighting, honey, she shines. So Make It Cow starts up on Monday the 27th. I hope you will participate. There's no official sign up, and you can share your projects and tag and all that good stuff, and congratulations if you win prizes, and if not, it's just nice to be part of a community of people who are doing similar projects. Being able to support each other, encourage each other, start and finish some projects, we're just going to build each other up, all that good maker confidence stuff, you know what I'm saying. So again, find all the details out about Make It Cow, get your projects ready, and I will see you on the 27th. And last but certainly not least, I want to take just a few moments to gush about the Yarn Hive community. So I had the extreme pleasure of starting the Yarn Hive community back in January 2024 as kind of this clubhouse for yarn enthusiasts and fans of the TL Yarn Crafts brand. Kind of think about it like the VIP booth for like TL Yarn Crafts super fans. It's a virtual membership that kind of has 2 main components to it. So when you enter the Yarn Hive, the first thing you can interact with is our video library. This is a space that has all of the TL Yarn Crafts videos. I'm talking about everything from YouTube, all the tutorials, all the podcasts, all the everything. Completely ad-free, on demand, whatever it is that you want to watch. Now, not only do I have everything from YouTube there, but I also have lots of exclusive tutorials, demos, and live stream replays. There are over 330 videos in that library. And the really nice thing about it is for all of the project tutorials, so every single pattern that has a tutorial video, you also get a printable PDF pattern with it. So that pattern you just spent $7.54 over in my shop, you could have got it as part of your membership if you are already inside the Yarn Hive. Now, while the video library is a really nice perk of membership, I think the crown jewel of the Yarn Hive is the community side. So in the community, we have over a dozen different channels, all related to yarn and yarn lovers. In there, our honeybees can talk about the whips that they're working on or the yarn that they just got. We have a dedicated TL Yarn Crafts pattern support channel. We also have a monthly book club, and we have weekly live streams. Last year, we did a 12-hour stitch-a-thon where we watched movies, we chit-chatted about our projects, we had a nice little quiet hour. It was a great time to really push through some projects. Since we opened the Yarn Hive back in January of last year, we've grown to 980 amazing honeybees, each of which brings something super special to our hive. Everybody joins the Yarn Hive for a different reason, but I think they stay for the camaraderie. You can see it in the way that they talk to each other and show up for each other. It's really a beautiful thing. And this is not just a space for like extroverts who want to chit chat all the time. This is also a nice space for the lurkers, the people who want to be inspired and who want to see what's going on with others and use that to influence their own projects. I bring this up because I know things are really weird with social media right now, and you might be looking for a stable place to be around other people who have like interests. So the Yarn Hive might be the place for you. And if you think it is, you can start your 3-day trial by visiting yarnhivecommunity.com. After your trial ends, we have monthly and annual memberships, and that annual membership does get you 2 free months. I really hope to see some of you in there. We really do have a good time. And speaking of a good time, I'm looking forward to having a good time with you this year. Now, you may have already noticed that there is a little bit of a change in schedule for things here at TL Yarn Crafts. I'm actually trying out this bi-weekly format with releasing videos because it turns out that releasing a video every single week is not really conducive to also being a designer and wanting to work on your own projects and travel, etc., etc. Quality has always been the #1 priority when creating this channel, so I'm excited to get to a schedule where it doesn't feel like I'm on like this flaming hamster wheel all the time. I feel really blessed to have turned my hobby into my career, and I just want to get to a place where I will always enjoy doing this. So I'm really glad that you're going to be here with me as I go about this experiment, and I don't know, we'll see where this takes us. But enough about me. What about you, babe? What you got going on? What are you working on? What are you reading? What are you watching? I want you to light those comments up. Let me know what's going on with you. Inspire me. What else should I be reading if I wasn't reading what I'm reading? And while you do that, I'm going to go reheat my tea because I can feel that cough creeping up. It's like right here. Now, if you just can't get enough of me, you can watch even more of my podcasts and vlogs right here. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye. Oh God, here we go. It's ice cold. Ice cold.